Hi, welcome to the Opt-in Podcast. I am Melissa Franks, your host, also known as the On-Call COO, and this is the podcast where we go from surviving to thriving in business. Today, we are going to talk about the difference between show and tell. And we're actually not even going to talk at all about show and tell. What we're really going to be talking about is demonstration. And this topic gives me a little bit of the giggles because we all know what show and tell is. All of us do. Raise your virtual hand if you did show and tell in school. And when my children were very little, because now even my fifth grader doesn't do this anymore, when it was their turn to do show and tell, it was a week of what treasure can I find? What can I tell them about it? Sometimes in the classes, it was let me describe to you what I'm bringing today without actually showing it to you. And this concept of show and tell, we learn in kindergarten. In fact, I think my kids were even doing it in preschool. So from the moment that you are in learning environments and you are in social settings, this concept of show and tell exists. And here is what I find incredibly fascinating about show and tell is that it's the first opportunity for us to practice our presentation skills. It's the educational system's way of, at a very early age, indoctrinating us to you will spend your life presenting. You will spend your life in front of a group of people who are quiet and want to hear what you have to say. And that, honestly, is probably one of the coolest things that happens in education at an early age, and traditional education anyway, that nobody freaking talks about. It's show and tell. You got to dig through the toy chest. They've got to find their beloved. You got to make sure it comes home from school because holy heck, if it doesn't, we're going to have a problem. But that's actually not the learning opportunity at all. What these small humans are being invited to do, being required to do in some moments of time is to find something that they believe will spark interest in their peers. And then they're invited to stand in front of their peers for quite a few minutes and communicate the importance of what they have with them. They can communicate the importance to themselves. They can communicate the importance to other people. They can even do a little bit of a sales pitch about why those children would want an item just like what they brought in. Sometimes they're sharing pictures of family vacations. Sometimes they're talking about their favorite grandparent. Sometimes they are showing a Lego creation that they built. It doesn't really matter the thing that they are showing. What matters is that at this ripe early age, all of us have been afforded the opportunity to begin working on our presentation skills. And then things go sideways. I'm gonna say it. Then we fail ourselves in the educational system. And I have educators in my family. I wanted to be an educator myself at one point before I realized that was a really bad idea. And 25 years later, I now know that was a really bad idea. But this early moment where we spark the concept of presenting, of showing, of communicating, of pitching, of selling is one that could be capitalized. It is one for which we could cultivate it. We could water the seed. We could put it in the right soil and we could watch it grow. This is where the future members of the debate club could begin. This is where our future actors and leaders and politicians. If we took this one activity and we built upon it over the 12 years or 13 years that they're in their educational system, can you imagine the communicators that we would have come out? What ends up happening, though, is there's a focus on communication, on the telling portion of show and tell, and we lose the very important other half of the equation, which is the show. And that's what I want to talk about today, because what happens is we come out of the educational system and we all have varying degrees of success with telling, with standing in front of a group of people or a teacher or a small group or your friends or whomever and telling a story, of telling why you ran an experiment and the result that you got, of telling and telling and telling. And so I wanted to get really, really clear on the definitions before I go into why this is important. But when we talk about tell, so that first half of the equation, what we are talking about simply is communication. You're giving out information, you're giving out facts, you're giving out data. This is the stuff that could stand up in a court of law. So if you had to put your hand on the Bible and you had to raise that is not my right hand. If you had to raise your right hand and say, I swear I am telling the truth. Telling, right? You're communicating information and facts and data. That's all you're doing. But when you start to talk about showing, and you're performing, you're presenting. And why do you think that show business is called show business? Because it is the business of performing. So when we look back at those early days when we were invited into our classrooms to show and tell, what we were being invited to do is perform and do so with facts and information and data. And performance, if you think about it, if you think about show business, if you think about a performance like in a play or a dance recital, if you think of any sort of performance, performative art in your life, it's entertaining. It captures your attention, your imagination. It makes you wonder what if. It has you imagine or dream or exist in a world other than the one that you're currently in. Performing suspends reality. It gives you room to see what is potentially possible. It gives you room to sit on the other side of the table with the person and understand what they're experiencing. When you spend time telling, all you're doing is giving information and facts. It's alienating, it's cold, it lacks emotion. There's a reason that it's not called telling business. There's a reason it's called show business, because the performance, the performative nature, the ability to present is what's most important. The performance is how you convey the information and the data and the facts. So when we are talking about how to roll around and operate in a business setting, the concept of show and tell is so incredibly important. And I took this a step further because I really wanted to say, show and tell is a phrase that we are so familiar with because children do it at school and they are so excited about it. And we understand our version of that reality. We look at it through our adult lens. We know that they are supported and applauded just by standing up there and giving it a try. And in order for us to really understand this concept, we need to remove ourselves from something that's familiar, that we have a specific perspective around, that our brain has already actually created neural pathways and said, I know what show and tell is. I know what that looks like. I know what the experience is. In fact, show and tell could be traumatic for you. If you were a child that struggled standing up in front of people, it could be something that invokes an actual traumatic response in your body. And that's not what we want. We want to talk about how you can leverage these skills and techniques inside of business to be successful. So let's move away from show and tell for now. Maybe we'll come back to it. And what I really wanted to talk about is demonstrating and explaining. So when I looked at the definition of demonstrate, what demonstrate is it's to give a practical exhibition and explanation of how. So a demonstration is where you're exhibiting something in order to communicate how something should be done or how something is. Okay? And an explanation is where you are conveying an understanding. You're not actually showing anything. You're trying to get everybody to understand what you already know. So these are further decompositions of that concept of show and tell. Show is to present and demonstrate is to give an exhibition. It's another way of presenting, but this time it's with an intended purpose in mind, aside from entertaining. And when you talk about explaining, that's where you're invoking understanding. So it takes telling to a new level. Telling provides information and facts, and explanation gives the underlying meaning. So when we are in a business context, there are a variety of ways that we want to leverage demonstration and explanation in order to move the business forward, in order to gain agreement, in order to get decisions, in order to advance our stature, in order to improve our network, in order to foster resiliency. I could go on and on and on. In every single function of every single business, demonstration and explanation is necessary in order to conduct yourself. And I want to look at it through the lens of 3 different perspectives. One of those perspectives is as an employee and why it's so important as an employee. The second one is as a people leader and how it's so important as a people leader to understand and leverage these techniques. And then the third is as the business owner or the founder or the CEO or however you identify yourself. So we are going to walk through all 3 of those today, and we're going to look at good ways and bad ways to do them as we round it out. So first, we're going to talk about what it's like as an employee and how you can leverage these to your advantage. So as an employee, and you can be an individual contributor or you can be a people leader. Basically, when I say employee, it means that you don't own the business. So this is anybody. This is the entry-level intern that is working in the summers because she's out of college and is looking for work experience. And this could be me, the chief operating officer of the business. It doesn't matter what your level is. If you are working for somebody else, you are categorized as an employee. You don't own the thing, you work for the thing. And there are a variety of reasons that you may make a decision to demonstrate or explain. And I want to tell you the very most important reason to do that. And it is to provide evidence that you have competence. It's for you to provide evidence that you are the best at what you do. It's to provide evidence, unwavering evidence that cannot be disputed, that you are ready for the promotion, you are ready for the raise, you are ready for the bigger team, you are ready for the stretch assignment. Demonstration is how you propel your career forward. Explanation is not. I know that may sound shocking because as we go back and we look at explanation, it's giving an understanding. Well, and the truth of the matter is that your boss doesn't need to understand what you do. The CEO of the company doesn't need to understand what you do. What they do need to know is what to come to you for, what value you're going to provide to them, what value you're going to provide to the organization, what results you're going to deliver that are going to help the organization get to that big, audacious goal. And that you convey through demonstration. That you convey through giving practical exhibitions of how you're going to get it done. And what do I mean by that exactly? So let's take a hypothetical scenario. Let's say that it is your responsibility to determine why customers are buying. So that's your whole job, to understand your customers' behavior and then what things are bringing them in the door and then what things are getting the deal closed. Now, you could explain all day long the data sources that you use and the tools and techniques that you're using and the automation that you have set and the spreadsheets you have built and all. You could explain it all. You could explain it all. And there are some people that would likely be interested in exactly how you built the better mousetrap. What is most impactful, however, is for you to create a report, a summary, and then present it. And when we talk about presenting, you have to remember that we're talking about performing. So this is your opportunity to take all of that hard work and all of that, all those tools that you use and all that intellect that you use to synthesize data and come up with an assessment and figure out what's going on, and then you get to present. You get to stand in front and say, I have such good news. I have such good news. Our clients who answer the first sales call without it going to voicemail, become buyers 95% of the time. And I have good news that when we greet customers coming in the door, if you're a brick and mortar, they're 3 times more likely to buy than when we don't. You can paint a picture. So part of the performing is, let me talk to you about Sandy. And then you can give an actual customer story about how Sandy was uncertain about buying a couch. And then she came in through the door and John greeted her warmly and asked her why a couch was so important to her. And he learned that her family was expanding and she was going to have multiple grandchildren that would be coming over, and she wanted to watch movies with them and spend time snuggling on the couch. And she was looking for a piece of furniture that could stand up to children being on the furniture and spilling things and being gross, and also that was comfortable and that they would want to spend time with and snuggle up and be warm and cozy. And so John, understanding exactly what Sandy needed, took her to the back corner of the store. He took her to that back corner where the couches aren't as pretty, where they aren't as expensive, and they are sturdy. And they can be Scotch guarded, and they have excellent warranties, and they are the perfect couch for lounging around and maybe having a few silly jumps if the mood strikes. Because John greeted Sandy at the door and learned about her, he was able to close the sale within minutes. Sandy communicated after that if John hadn't spent the time to get to know her, that she would have left the store because the first half of the store was modern furniture that looked uncomfortable and was out of her price range. So this is why greeting customers is so important. And so you can paint the picture, you can perform just the way that I did, and you don't have to spend any time explaining your complex spreadsheets and the tools that you used and the data that you collected and the interviews that you did. And all you have to do is say, the data is telling us that when we greet customers, we get more buyers. And then you make it human. That's how you demonstrate. And this can be done anywhere. So that was a silly example that I picked up off the drop of a hat. You can do it just as well with when you're making efficiencies in the back office and you figured out how to automate a bunch of processes, and it's going to save Sally, your coworker, 20 hours a week. And the cool part is that Sally now gets to take that 20 hours and do something that's going to move the business forward. You're demonstrating, you're performing, you're also explaining very quietly that what you do matters. And it's important and you're valuable. You know, I just recently saw something on Instagram, and I'm not going to out who this was, but a woman was speaking and her husband had worked at Nike for a very, very long time. And he had worked on some incredibly big shoe deals, like incredibly big, you know, major sports athletes. He had designed the shoes. He got to do really cool things. It was awesome. And as she was kind of explaining what happened, she kept saying that she feels bad for the company because they don't realize what they lost. And I don't know this guy. I don't work at Nike. All I know is the few tidbits on social media. And what comes to mind is that if you were consistently demonstrating, if you were consistently presenting and not explaining, your value is understood. It's understood intrinsically, and it's understood emotionally, and it's understood as something that the business cannot do without. Facts and data are really, really important. I am somebody who just spent my entire morning crunching numbers to solve a problem and prove a point, which I did. However, it does not inspire action. The information is interesting to know. It is not actually going to move the needle in the business, but what is going to inspire action is by digging in and understanding the behavior of a couple of people, and once the pattern is identified, talking about it through the lens of the human. When you are at work, it is incredibly important that you, the employee, do the work that you were hired to do, that you deliver on the commitments that you made, that you do it with quality and high value, and that you advocate for yourself. And the best way to protect yourself from layoffs, the best way to protect yourself from restructuring, the best way to get in line for promotions and pay raises is to be looking for opportunities to demonstrate, for looking for opportunities to present and perform in front of the people that matter, in front of the influencers and the decision makers and your peers. Because when you're able to present and demonstrate consistently, everybody remembers your value. They will not remember the information and the facts that you have given. They won't even really remember why your job is important. What they will remember is the performance that you delivered. And the performance that you deliver provides the understanding, and it gives a little bit of the information and a little bit of the facts. So as an employee, this is why it is important. Now, as a people leader, you're doing all of those things that I just walked through because you're also an employee. The other thing that you are is you are somebody that needs to inspire others to act and operate in a specific behavior pattern. And think about that for a minute. You are everything that you do, every way you act, every way you respond, every way that you move around in the business is demonstrating to your employees how they should move around in the business. Or it could be demonstrating how not to. I like to coin this as you need to lead by example. If you want your employees to show up on time, you need to show up on time. If you want your employees to not work nights and weekends, you need to not work nights and weekends. If you want there to be an open door policy, then you need to actually have an open door policy. If you want your employees to be transparent and honest with you, you have to be transparent and honest with them. You need to demonstrate behaviors. So your presentation is absolutely, you are performing behaviors over and over and over again, where we just talked about employees, which you are as well, doing actual work and then being performative in the communication of the results and the outcome and being performative when asking for a decision and all of those things. You have an extra layer of performance that you need to do, and that is how we operate and behave inside of the company. How we operate and behave inside of the team. They are going to be looking to you for cues on how to interact with peers, how to resolve conflict, and ultimately how to manage the political landscape so that they can get a leg up and become you one day. You have a responsibility because you're always on stage. See, the thing with leading people is that there is no off button. You don't get to say, well, for the next 10 minutes, I'm your manager and you should pay attention to me. And for the next 3 hours, please don't do anything I do. Don't do anything I say. Just ignore that I'm here. You don't get to do that. Somebody is always watching you. Somebody is always taking notes and cues, and it can go either way. There can be notes and cues of what to do and not to do depending on the sort of leader you are. So as a people leader, what you need to first understand is that you are always performing. Always. Whether it's a one-on-one, whether it's a team meeting, whether it's a hallway conversation, whether it's happy hour cocktails, you are always performing. What does that mean? It means that somebody is always watching. It means somebody on your team or somebody on an adjacent team is observing. It means that your demonstration of how to be fill in the blank director of sales, chief operating officer, etc., is always being consumed. And so what you need to ask yourself is, am I demonstrating the things that I would want my employees to demonstrate from a culture perspective, from a values perspective, from a work ethic perspective? Am I performing and I'm teaching what I want them to learn and emulate? You have an obligation to demonstrate and perform as an employee, so you need to continually demonstrate your value to the organization. You need to continue to perform in order to drive a decision. You need to continue to perform to get yourself new opportunities in the organization. And then in addition to that, you need to realize that you are always performing, that you are always in front of an audience, that you always need to be certain that what you are demonstrating is what you want emulated. And then as a CEO or a business owner or a founder, we could probably find 75 more ways to say as the person that owns the business, started the business, etc. Both of those apply. So the people leader conversation we just had and the employee conversation we just had. And then you have another layer of responsibility. I know. You wanted it. You own it. This additional layer of responsibility is that you are setting the vision. You are casting a vision of the future. You're communicating how this business is going to change the world in a beautiful and impactful way. You're clarifying the mission. You're instilling values of the organization. You are inspiring people to take action. You're building loyalty. And you are building trust. While it is true, just like the people leader, you are always on, you are always performing, you always have an audience. There's an extra level of responsibility because the public at large is looking to you to demonstrate who your company is, what it stands for, what it offers, what value it provides. Your performances make or break the business. Ultimately, you're the one that your clients look to. Ultimately, you're the one that the shareholders and investors look to. You are the one on the cover of magazines. You are the one on podcasts. You are the one on the YouTube channel. You are the one that is the face of the business. And that means you are always performing. That means on a Saturday when you're on your boat on the lake, you're performing. That means that when you're in the airport at 5 a.m. waiting to catch the first flight of the day, you're performing. Every single decision that you make, every single action you take, every single thing that you do is a demonstration of who you are and who your company is and what you stand for. You have to be the most intentional out of all three. You have the ability to exponentially grow your business or tank it purely by your ability to perform and demonstrate and present ongoing. You know, I have a client, and one of the things that we were talking about recently was dramatic demonstrations. And the client specifically, I was talking to the CEO and the chief strategy officer and the creative director, and this concept of dramatic demonstrations by the business owner is really intriguing because it's not enough to demonstrate the way that the people leaders do and the employees do. It's not big enough. The performance isn't impactful enough. The performance will not catch the attention enough. See, the employee is in a small fishbowl, and they could be a small or medium-sized fish. And then the people leader gets in a slightly bigger fishbowl. So it takes the fish needs to get bigger to be able to have more attention. And then the CEO, your fishbowl, you are in an aquarium. You are in that aquarium that's built into the wall that everybody is looking at, and you've got to stand out amongst hundreds of fishes in the aquarium. And then when you perform, when you are seen, when somebody says, "Ooh, that fish is so cool," then you have their attention. And so this concept of dramatic demonstrations is exactly that. You are this small fish in this massive aquarium. How are you going to get the people's attention? It's not by going on Instagram stories and talking a little bit. It's not by attending, local community all-day masterminds. It's by doing something grandiose and demonstrating what you and your company do in a unique and unexpected way. So, for example, have you ever seen the show Undercover Boss? Right? I always liked that, but I wanted like a spin on it. I wanted to see where it wasn't the boss, but what I actually wanted to see is somebody from a completely different industry. in like an adjacency. So let's say that it's a fast food chain and you have somebody that is in fine dining. Okay, so it's adjacent, but it's different. I would love to see the owner of the fine dining chain of restaurants go into a fast food organization and try to work in a restaurant for a day. I would like to see them take the principles of the fine dining restaurant, the customer service, the attention to detail, all of those things that you know fine dining for, and apply it to a fast food restaurant and to see the result. Because I bet, and it's just a bet, that while there would be a bunch of storming going on, if some of the principles applied in fine dining were applied to fast food, you would have a better customer experience, you would have more loyalty, and you would completely alter the brand reputation in a unique and new and different way. And the reason that I say that is if you just compare a McDonald's to a Chick-fil-A, people will talk to you all day long about the customer service and the experience in Chick-fil-A. All day long. I don't know a single person who has been to a Chick-fil-A that cannot tell you how great it is to go in there. McDonald's, on the other hand, the best I get from people is how fast they went through the drive-thru. So even if a franchise owner from Chick-fil-A went into a franchise of a McDonald's, can you imagine the impact that would have? Because the Chick-fil-A franchise owner would be able to demonstrate principles and apply them to an adjacent business model and then would be known for those things. So when I'm talking about dramatic demonstration, I'm talking about taking what you do, taking how you operate, taking how you conduct yourself, what your business does, and do it in a new and different way to capture attention. You can demonstrate your business, you can demonstrate your values, you can demonstrate your reputation, but it doesn't need to be by standing on a stage and talking over and over and over again. Find new ways to do it. Find shocking ways to do it. Find unexpected ways to do it. I mean, how cool would it be if you were running a software as a service business and you went to a real estate conference and you shared the principles of growing your business with the real estate agents and told them how what you learned in that business is applicable to what they do? You would inspire your team. You would inspire the people working inside of your business because they would actually see the value of the business, of what you're doing in a unique way. They would see that the changes that are making, the results that you're delivering to clients are in fact as important as a realtor helping somebody find their first home, right? By showing dramatically, by demonstrating dramatically, by performing, you can grow your business. You can have a loyal fan base of customers. You can have raving fans. You can have employees that will stay with you for 20 years. But it requires you, the CEO, you, the business owner, you, the founder, to dramatically demonstrate the value of the company every single day. Now, I have a very strong point of view in general, and I have communicated this to many a client, and I just said it a few minutes ago with the boat example, that because you own the business, you are always representing the business. You can be at the gym, you can be on your boat, you can be on an airplane. You're always representing your business. So everything that you do, everything that you wear, every bag that you carry, every seat you sit in an airplane, it's communicating who you are, what is important to you. And it means whether or not people are taking notice. So your demonstrations are very, very different than the demonstrations of the people that work for you. Because your demonstrations are also communicating what a person would be like that bought from you. You know, consider for a moment, and I don't remember where I heard this from, but consider for a moment where your clients would expect you to sit on an airplane. Okay? Where would they expect you to sit? Would they expect you to sit in the back row by the lavatories? Would they expect you to sit in Economy Plus with extra legroom? Would they expect you to sit in first class and work during your plane flight? Would they expect you to fly private? What you are selling to your customers, whatever it is, the impact that is going to have on their life, it's going to save them time. It's going to make things easier. It's going to make them wealthy. It's going to massively solve a problem and open up new possibilities. It's going to make them more healthy. Like whatever you are selling, whatever it's delivering, your performance is showing that comes and this is what it looks like. So if, for example, you are selling something that is going to save your clients time, well, they're going to expect you to sit in an area of the airplane where you can get on last and off fast. They are not going to be expecting you to sit on the exit row. They are not going to be expecting you to sit in the middle of the plane in a middle seat. They're going to be expecting you to be in economy plus or first class. They're going to be expecting for you to carry things on and walk right off. Everything that you do is a performance when you own a business. Everything. So as I said, I wanted to round this out by talking a little bit about the difference between demonstrating well and demonstrating poorly. So when you are demonstrating well, you are showing by doing. You are being the example. You are providing feedback. You're course correcting when necessary. And you're repetitive with what you're performing and demonstrating and explaining. And when you're not doing it well, you will take over. You're not demonstrating at all. You are actually coming in and communicating how something is going to work, and then you're just doing it for them instead. You critique. So this is where the telling comes in. You're communicating facts or information. You're not providing understanding. You're not providing a demonstration. You're just providing facts and information. And in the most extreme situations, you'll remove authority. You will punish those around you because they are not doing what you want them to do. You see, when you are a people manager or a CEO, as I said, you're always demonstrating. And so if you come in and take over when things aren't going right, if you retaliate when things aren't going right, if you are negative, you're performing that in front of your people. You're showing them that that is the way to behave. So focus on the good things. Focus on showing by doing and leading by example. And as I said, with those of you at the very, very top, what you want to be thinking about, you want to be looking for opportunities to say, how can I demonstrate the culture? How can I demonstrate the mission? How can I demonstrate the value? How can I demonstrate the work ethic? How can I demonstrate, fill in the blank in a big way by how I live my life? Because everybody's always watching. So like I said, this all started with show and tell. And I wish that our schools, even though there are communications classes and there's speech and there's all that stuff, they do not spend enough time helping us learn the art of performance. We don't all need to be actors and actresses. We do not all need to be singers. We do not all need to be comfortable on stages. What we do need to know are the skills that it takes to be able to communicate information, to be able to show what we are trying to communicate in a new and different way to capture attention and get buy-in and make decisions. If you can perform, if you can present in a way that is entertaining and engaging, layering in explanation, which is understanding of meaning, you will have an amazing business that grows exponentially. You will have an amazing career that goes higher than higher than higher. These are the skills where you want to spend some time, because it's the difference between stagnating and growth. Thank you for going on this journey with me about show and tell and demonstration. I hope you enjoyed this. If you know anybody that can use this little talk, please share the podcast with them. As I have mentioned previously, the podcast is dropping every Tuesday on YouTube. So if you would rather see me talk with you versus listen to me talk, you can go subscribe to the YouTube channel and find the episode there. I am so grateful for your time. Until I see you next time, please know that you are wise, you are strong, and you are capable, and I believe in you.